streamed at fcps.edu/TV/channel 99. We have 49 speakers registered tonight who will address the board at this public hearing, and each speaker is allotted 3 minutes. We ask that you stay within your time limit. I will be asking you to wrap up if you go beyond that. The timer will start when you begin to speak, and the timer will sound at the conclusion of your 3 minutes. When your name is called, please unmute your microphone. Please keep it muted prior to that and begin speaking. So I, again, thank you for being with us tonight, and I will call upon our first speaker, Ms. Kimberly Boateng.
Thank you. I didn't anticipate being first, so this is a lovely surprise. So good afternoon, everybody. I like to ask that you forgive the thunder. I think we're all in the same boat with that, but I just like to spare the theatrics and kind of get straight to the point here. I want to graduate with a diploma under the name of John Lewis High School. This, of course, is a big change and a big shift from the name that I was backing for a while and that people heard me backing and supporting. And that name was Franconia High School. So I did have a lot of support for that. I talked to kids, I wrote a letter, I did a lot of research, but at the end of the day, I've decided that I deserve better. I was so bent over the idea of normalcy or avoiding controversy among community members. But in all bluntness, and for a lack of better words, I don't care anymore. I really don't. Because after talking to leaders and others, and frankly seeing all the things that I admittedly had not known about Congressman John Lewis come up on my feeds and news, I'd be more than happy and more than proud to attend a high school named John Lewis High School. I spend the past 2 of my high school years having to explain that my high school name is not who we are, that we're not racist, that was not what you think. And in all honesty, it was a real embarrassment. Congressman John Lewis fought relentlessly. He was arrested, he was beaten, humiliated, and regardless, he still went back. He went back for more. He never stopped fighting. And I feel it's owed to the many years of ridicule that Lee kids have faced due to the egregious name to implement someone who fought on the right side of history. Congressman John Lewis fought to his last days and was an inspiration to many. And also, just in all fairness, I think it's about time we have a high school named after a Black person. Thank you.
Next, our speaker is Sophie Murphy. And I do, Ms. Murphy, before you start, I want to let everyone know some of us are having very big storms in our area, and some people want you to know that hopefully it won't be me since I'm moderating. If we lose power, it is not because we don't want to be here, but there are terrific storms raging in some of our areas. So, Ms. Sophie Murphy. All right, Ms. Murphy, we will try to get back to you. Ms. Megan Long.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you.
My name is Megan Long. I am a graduating senior at Lee High School next year, and I'm very excited. I went to my first graduation recently. It was very exciting. And when I went there, they had a school named after someone who was very prevalent in history. And I was very excited. I was like, wow, I get to see my friend graduate. And at their graduation, they had a quote from that person. And I realized, going to Lee High School at the time, I would never be able to have that because no one wants a quote from Robert E. Lee at the graduation. It wasn't something that I was proud of. And I would like to have a quote at my graduation. I'd like to have something to send me forward and have something that shows hey, you made it this far and let's remember these people and you can go on and you can do something better as well. So personally, I am all for John Lewis High School. Like Kimberly said, it would be amazing to have it named after someone who could also represent our diverse community going to Lee. I learned so much about so many different people there and I love it. Another name that I had in mind that I was really pushing for a long time was Taylor M. Williams High School. Taylor M. Williams was the first Black principal at FCPS. And he was someone that I didn't know about and I had to do some searching for in order to find out who he was and where he taught and to even figure out he was a person. So I think that's an important part about FCPS history that's not really remembered, and it would be amazing to have a school named after that part of our history and have a school named after how he paved the way for so many others and he inspired so many others. And I think it would be amazing just to remember him. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker number 4 is Amrita Singh, and I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. Amrita, S-I-N-G-H. All right, we will come back. Speaker number 5, Rachel Rios. Rachel Rios. Speaker number 6, Teddy Geis.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Teddy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak today, Ms. Koufax. I have seen some of the names brought to change Robert E. Lee High School by the superintendent, and I think they are all remarkable people, but most of the suggestions were people that I really don't think reflect Virginia as a state. The only Virginian that he mentioned was Mildred Loving, and she should be considered for our names. But we have so many other Virginians that have contributed to society and should be commended for their work. I have 4 names that I believe can do that. Number 1 is L. Douglas Wilder. He was a native of Richmond and became the first elected African-American governor in the United States after becoming the governor of Virginia in 1990. Number 2 is Pearl Bailey. Miss Bailey was an actor, singer, and author who changed the music industry in the 1950s and got more African Americans involved in the American entertainment industry. She is a recipient of a Tony Award and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Number 3 is Arthur Ashe, a tennis player who helped fight against racial inequality and became the first Black tennis player to win at the Wimbledon tennis competition in 1957. Lastly is Senator John Warner. Senator Warner served as the Secretary of Navy under President Nixon and was later elected to the United States Senate in 1978. He would later chair several committees, including the Senate Armed Services Committee, where he helped play a huge role in military reform during the 2000s. He retired in 2009 and is in his 90s now, and we should dedicate a school to any of them now. I feel that all these people are qualified to have a school named after them, as they all have contributed to Virginia society in one way or another. With the remainder of my time, I cannot attend the meeting tomorrow. Can I share some brief remarks I have for tomorrow that I wanted to say tomorrow? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. Yes, keep going.
Okay. This is on behalf of several parents and students I'm close with, and they have asked me to convey this at the meeting. They want to consider relieving Dr. Brabrand of his duties after he spoke
I'm sorry. No, that is not part of this public hearing, but thank you. Thank you so much. You can write us, the school board, a letter, and you can speak at the board meeting on that. This is just simply, I thought you were talking specifically about the renaming, but that is what we are talking about tonight. So, but thank you, Teddy, for your comments very much on the renaming. And you can send your comments for tomorrow's meeting to us on the school board. We can get somebody to follow up. One of our clerks will follow up with you to get your comments from tomorrow. Okay?
Thank you for having me, Ms. Koufax.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Hi.
All right. Speaker number, I'm sorry.
Hello. I think my phone was glitched out, but I was speaker number 4. And did you call on me already?
Amrita?
Yeah.
Yes. Tell me how you say your name. Say your name for us and you may start. You're speaker number 4. We'll go back to that. And then after you speak, we are going to go to speaker number 7, Amanda Hurst. But right now we're going to go back to speaker number 4.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My name's Amrita. Hi, everyone. My name is Amrita Singh, and I'm going to be a rising senior at Lee this fall. Before I begin, I would like to thank the school board and all who have supported and fought for this name change to be possible. Without the time and effort that was put in by many, we wouldn't be lucky enough to have this opportunity, and I'm extremely grateful. Over the past couple of weeks, I've been talking to my peers in the Lee community about how they feel about the name change and the names that were proposed. There have been many thoughts and discussions surrounding the name, and it's certainly very hard to pick a name.
Oops. And Rita, we lost you.
Hi, I think my phone disconnected. Is it
Yes,
okay
it
if
did.
I?
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
Yes.
It's certainly very hard to pick a name when all the names proposed were great options. For instance, naming the school based on the geographical location is a great idea because it resembles the area the school is located, and the name does not harm or inflict offensive ideals on any individuals. Likewise, naming the school after inspiring historical figures would be great because we would be honoring amazing historical people of color that have brought many great things to society. Although the historical figures that were proposed for the name have done amazing things, I, however, do feel as if naming buildings after individuals is not the best option because there are often many controversial debates around historical figures. Even if many individuals look up to certain figures, there will always be people who have countering arguments as to why they dislike certain people and the work they did. Sometimes people will discover controversial things about historical figures years after they've passed. As times change, culture changes, and with that comes different opinions and viewpoints. Naming the school after people, no matter how appreciated they are at one point in time, could lead to the risk of having to change the school name again in the future, which costs money and a lot of time. To avoid this, I think it's best to avoid naming buildings after people and instead name buildings after meaningful words that represent the community in a positive light. With this being said, I think the best name for our school is Legacy High School because many students have shown great appeal to this name, and I think this name represents our school in an incredible way. It would also be much easier to rebrand if we chose the name Legacy because we could keep our mascot and we would only have to change small things in the school. There was also a petition put out that had around 253 signatures for the name Legacy, so clearly it has a ton of support and many of the community members want it. Our legacy is that we're a school with tons to offer and an incredible community, and we are righting the wrongs of racism and rising above it. With this being said, I hope the new name of my school is Legacy High School. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, we are going to speaker number 7, Amanda Hurst.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Amanda Hurst, and I go to the high school on Franconia Road. I'm going into my junior year, and I will be speaking on behalf of 56 students from the class of 2022. I'm the class of 2022's class president. So 2 weeks ago, the class of 2022's class office sent out a response form that asked students what name they liked best to change for our new school's name. The results for that Legacy and Loving were very favorable. So, however, this was 3 weeks ago. But I'll get into my opinion now. So John Lewis, a civil rights icon, passed away 5 days ago. And I believe we should consider Mr. Lewis to be named after our high school. We have an opportunity to move forward. As we know, Lee was renamed Robert E. Lee during the civil rights era. The intent was to oppress the Black community here in Northern Virginia. Using John Lewis's name would send a strong message. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Bye. Speaker number 8, Jaden Temple. Jaden Temple? All right. Next speaker, Sammy Kaloff. Sammy Kaloff?
Hello.
I'm Jane Temple.
Oh, okay, Jaden. All right, let me go back to you then. Thank you. You may begin, Jaden.
Hi, my name is Jane Temple. I am 9 years old and I'm entering the 4th grade at Saratoga Elementary School. I love history and I know some of the people, some of the schools were named after people who did bad things or like wasn't considered like the best person in the history. I think we should name our schools after a person like John Lewis, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King, and maybe consider more names as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Jaden. We appreciate you coming. Going back to number 9, Sammy Kalaf. All right, we'll come back. Speaker number 10, Marianne Aglia.
Hello.
Hi, Marianne.
Yes. Hello. My name is Marianne Ajay, and I'm going to be entering my sophomore year at Lee High School. I'd like to start off by thanking the school board for allowing me to speak today. Now that the name change is official, we find ourselves wondering what the school name is be. And from the 6 options the school board provided, me alongside many other students at Lee are in favor toward Legacy High School. I believe that Legacy is the best option to minimize redesign costs, but also revamp the school's image for generations to come. I'll begin with the monetary advantages. As we know, we are the Lee Lancers. Renaming our school would allow us to remain LHS, but while minimizing costs, because unlike all the other options, Legacy sounds the best next to Lancers. If we're able to remain the Lee Lancers, students can keep most of their school merchandise, and school chants and traditions like the Lance Rumble would not have to change either. And it will also reduce the redesign costs because most of our schools branded with the Lancer emblem. And I would also next, a few weeks ago, I created a petition in favor of Legacy. I was able to garner 253 signatures in a small period of time. And not only that, but a member of Change.org personally reached out to me and telling me her support for the name change. Her name is Camille, and she was extremely helpful in getting my message out. As we know, Robert E. Lee was extremely offensive and racially charged connotations behind it. And it's important to establish this new name and what this new name means for students. Legacy, I'd say legacy means, can be summed up like this. For a long time, our school has been tainted by its former name. With this renaming is the first step to positive change. And if our school is renamed Legacy, we can pave the way to create a new light for our school. I would like to think that it's a new beginning where we create our own legacy. Thank you so much for your time, and I please hope you consider renaming our school Legacy High School. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Speaker number 11, Joyce Russell.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for letting me speak this afternoon. I'm a graduate of Lee High School from the class of 1980, and there's a large contingency of Lee High School alumni that still get together today. And on our Facebook page, we have been discussing the name change, and I agree with speaker number 4, that if you change the name to a person, it will probably be changed years and years later. So I think that an agreement with a couple of others that have spoken and mentioned the name of Legacy or North Central was the other choice, that would be the best choices for right now. Lee High School has always been a very close community, and from attending school there for 4 years, I never witnessed any kind of racial or discriminatory actions. But if the name must be changed, then I think picking, as Speaker Ford said, Legacy or another not person name would be best. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going back to speaker number 12, Jeanette DeJillian.
DeJulian, hi.
DeJillian, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm okay, thank you. Hello, Board of Supervisors and Superintendent Braband. I want to start by thanking you for your brave decision yesterday. As you may be able to see, I'm a nurse. I did brave the storm to get out here today, run home, and participate in this. I want to thank all of us who are representing today. I think I'm very proud of you. I didn't have the option when I was a Lancer back in 1989 to do things like this. Anyway, I wanted to let you know why I'm here. I am the daughter of 2 Lancers. I am a Lancer, class of 1989. My husband and his entire family of DeJulians were Lancers, or are Lancers. And I have 2 Lancers in my home, class of 2024 and 2029. I had to do the math on that. So, but they are up and coming Lancers. While I do hope that we can, whatever we do, keep that mask up, but that's another story. I wanted to let you know, I know that by now many of you have probably made up your mind, and that's fine. I understand. We're all coming to this with different perspective. And I want to let you know that I do respect John Lewis. I understand that we've just recently lost him and that he was a pioneer. And don't get me wrong, I do respect him. I do. But it's important for me to let you know that I don't think naming the school after another human, alive or deceased at this time, is wise, so that we never end up in this debacle of a situation again. I also wanted to say that if you do not keep the name as just Lee, please consider the names that have been suggested by the students, such as Legacy, or please, if not Legacy, don't focus on the entire state of Virginia or the entire county of Fairfax. It's huge. Focus on Springfield. Give Springfield something new to be proud such as Central or East or whatever, Springfield High School. I'm so proud of Jaden Temple as well. If you're still here, Jaden, way to go, buddy. Showing up for the 4th grade. I've been back and forth with this, but that's where I stand, and I want to support and make I hope that we can make a change to this that kind of shows the nature of our community. My family is ingrained in Springfield. They remember when Franconia was a 2-lane dirt road. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaker number 13 is Joseph Wells.
Yeah, I'm William Hunt. Is it me?
I'm sorry, William Hunt, you're next. I'm just going to make one more call for Joseph Wells. All right. Next, Mr. William Hunt. Go ahead, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you very much for letting me speak today. I'm a graduate of 1977 at Lee High School. My brother graduated in 1966. I believe that if you name it after any individual, as the last young lady said, that you're going to alienate a whole lot of the population as diverse as it is in Springfield now. I believe that Springfield High School or something generic like that would be a much better fit for the situation that Springfield is with the culture that's there now. So that's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. Speaker number 15, Dan Healy. Dan? All right. And speaker number 16, Claire Yordy. Claire Yordy. Speaker number 17, Chris Kinsley.
Gotcha again. It's Nisley, but that's okay.
Nisley. There you go. Thank you. Sorry.
There we go. Good afternoon, and thank you for hearing from me. My name is Chris A. Nisley, and I'm a biology teacher with FCPS. And I'm here to request that the board consider the name Laurel Grove High School and avoid the names Springfield or Legacy or Central Springfield for the school formerly known as Lee. And here's why. As historian Ibram X. Kendi describes in his book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, racist isn't a pejorative or an adjective describing a person, but rather a description of an action. He goes on to state that there's no such thing as a not racist action. There are only racist actions or anti-racist actions. The 1965 naming of Robert E. Lee High School was a racist action designed to send a message of white supremacy to the Black students that were first allowed to attend the school. That is not to say that the supporters of that name are necessarily racists. Remember, racism under this definition describes actions, not people. In navigating how we can take an anti-racist approach to remedying this racist action, I like to think of it with the metaphor of digging a hole. Every year FCPS has had a high school named Robert E. Lee, we kept digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. Simply changing the name to something generic would amount to stopping digging. A name change alone is not anti-racist. It stops us from going deeper, but it doesn't get us out of the hole. We must choose a name which sends an anti-racist message to get ourselves back to the surface. And this is why I don't believe names such as Central Springfield or Legacy will suffice. Central Springfield is simply the name of a place, and legacies can be both good and bad. If they were the names of a new high school, these names might be appropriate. But in trying to make amends for a racist action, we must be more proactive than that. I also understand the concerns of community members who are genuinely concerned about the idea of naming a high school after a person. And while I would personally love to see a John Lewis High School in honor of his life and his recent passing, and while I have advocated for Van Loo High School in the past, I have come to the conclusion that the name I feel would best address both this moment and the concerns of our community is Laurel Grove High School. Laurel Grove is the name of a geographic location just down the street from a high school known as Lee. This geographic location, though, has special significance. It's the site of the Laurel Grove Colored School, the last remaining Black schoolhouse in Northern Virginia. The schoolhouse was built by formerly enslaved people from the Hayfield Plantation. After the Civil War, Black members of our community came together and built a community space where people could come together and learn. Out of the ashes of hardship, they came together to build a monument to the idea that education is the gateway to a better future. Isn't that the legacy we want to instill in our youth, especially now? One of rising up through adversity, of community, hard work, and the value of education? Although it closed for classes in 1932, the Laurel Grove School exists today as a museum to that era. Please, let's open the doors or virtual doors to Laurel Grove High School. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am going to go back now to check on some speakers who did not come. I'm going to go to speaker number 2, Sophie Murphy. All right, Miss Murphy. Rachel Rios, you were speaker number 5. Sammy Kalaf, you were speaker 9. Joseph Wells, speaker 13. Don Healy. Claire Yorby. All right, I am going to continue on with speaker number 18, Sujatha Hampton.
Hi. Can you see me?
I can see you.
First, before I start, I wanted to say thank you to Chris Knisley. That was really interesting, and I appreciated that perspective. That was great. My name is Sujatha Hampton, and I come to you today as the Education Chair for the Fairfax County NAACP to offer our support for changing the name of Robert E. Lee High School to John Lewis High School. For years, you've heard all the arguments for renaming schools that offer honoring Confederates. The dirty leavings from an era of massive resistance in the capital of the Confederacy is a hurt we must endure as long as the names of traitors to the United States adorn our buildings, roads, and public spaces. However, when we name our schools for these men, we do an even greater harm. And when we let those names stand for decades, we multiply that harm across generations with our own seemingly benign neglect. How better to right this long-standing wrong than by replacing the name of Robert E. Lee, who fought to perpetuate enslavement, with John Lewis, who spent his entire life fighting to create, ensure, and protect freedom. Representative Lewis's death just days ago strikes almost as a signal to our children who flooded the streets across the country to march for justice and to see their country rise above its self-imposed limits and bigotries. Our children are showing us their courage every single day all over the country. It is time for us to honor their efforts and their vision by giving them a name they can be proud of. A name of a man who started his march 60 years ago for the same principles they're marching for today. A man who marched for justice almost until his dying day. John Lewis reminded us freedom is not a state, it is an act. It is not some enchanted garden perched high on a distant plateau where we can finally sit down and rest. Freedom is the continuous action we must all take, and each generation must do its part to create an even more fair, more just society. Our students are showing us their great belief in justice, their great commitment to the fight, their great compassion for one another, and their great resolve to speak truth to power. Robert E. Lee High School was named to underscore the divisive sentiment of the day. Let us look to more hopeful sentiments of this day: equal justice, brave activism, good trouble. We ask you to name the school for John Lewis and show our children we believe in their wildest dreams of a future where we are all allowed to be free, safe, healthy, and prosperous. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker 19 is George Alper. And Mr. Alper, before you start, I just want to make an announcement that some of my colleagues, including my colleague that brought forth this naming resolution with me many, many months ago, Karen Keys-Gamara, is unable to get in because she has lost internet where she is. So I just want people to be aware of that. That's why Karen is not with us. But Mr. Alper, if you will please begin your remarks. Thank you for being here.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Mrs. Colfax. And I want to thank all of you, the board members, for changing the name of this high school, first off. You know, like many of my fellow Fairfax County residents, I urge you to rename Robert E. Lee High School to John Robert Lewis High School. Like you, following the killing of George Floyd and the events of the past several weeks, I share in the outrage and stand in unity with my fellow Americans in the cry for justice. I also appreciate, by the way, the agonizing decision you all faced in deciding how to reopen Fairfax County public schools. However, at this moment, I am filled with joy and hope. Joy and hope at the opportunity we have this week to consider a new name for Robert E. Lee High School. Now, I am sure you've heard and read a lot about John Lewis this week, and you will hear more about his accomplishments and contributions today. However, I want you to think about his values. In his statement on the passing of Representative Lewis, Barack Obama wrote, and I quote, "In so many ways, John's life was exceptional, but he never believed that what he did was more than any citizen of this country might do. He believed that in all of us there exists a capacity for great courage, a longing to do what's right, a willingness to love all people, and to extend to them their God-given rights and dignity and respect. And it is because he saw the best in all of us that he will continue, even in his passing, to serve as a beacon in that long journey towards a more perfect union," unquote. I cannot help but think what an inspiration to our Fairfax County Public School students it would be if you changed the name of Robert E. Lee High School to John Robert Lewis High School. I urge you to make that change. I know you too have a longing to do what's right. I know you have a great capacity for courage. What a joy it would be. Light that beacon for our students. John Robert Lewis High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 20, Kate McAloon. Kate McAloon, perhaps? All right, so we'll come back. Speaker number 21, Liz McGann. Ms. McGann, I see that you're there. Maybe unmute your mic. There you are. Thank you. Oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you. No, I can't hear you. I'm reading your lips, though. You know what? I will come back to you. All right, I will come back to you. We'll try again. I know we're having storms in this area. Speaker number 22, Sean Haskett. Mr. Haskett?
Hello, I want to say thank you to the board for deciding to change this name. My name is Sean. Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Good.
Okay. So I want to thank the board for changing the name, and I think there's a delay.
There is, yeah. Try not to listen to yourself if you have the TV on.
So I want to thank the board, and I want to say I think that there is a lot of reason for being skeptical of renaming it after a person. Legacy High School is one of the only names that is unacceptable as a former FCPS student. By exactly as one of the former speakers said, by attempting to be neutral, something that can be open to interpretation, it is leaving the whole like unfilled. It is essentially leaving it open to interpretation. So people who want a positive legacy can think of the good things. But the white supremacists who attacked Charlottesville all those years ago, who attacked me physically in the nation's capital, they see legacy. And whose legacy do you think they will hear? Whose legacy do you think they think that name is about? While I've heard many amazing ideas for names, I think that John Lewis is a hero. I think that Laurel Grove, that's an amazing name that I hadn't even considered up to this point. I think that the only name that really solves all these problems is sort of staring us right in the face. Virginia is for lovers. Virginia is for lovers. This state, I am biracial. I am mixed. Before the fight that Mildred Loving and her husband took up that ended the year my father was born, before that fight, my existence was illegal. I was not allowed to be in this state and in many states across this country. The fight to make my existence legal, it happened here. LHS High School, Loving High School is the choice.
Thank you so much.
Is the group that we all deserved.
Thank you so much. Speaker number 23 is Stephen Spitz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Mr. Spitz?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Spitz.
Okay, thank you. I support changing the name to John Robert Lewis High School. And I agree with what Kim, the school board student representative, what Sujatha Hampton, what George Albert were saying, so I'm not going to try not to repeat what they said, but I wanted to make a pitch for this being a teachable moment. I have written a written statement, which I commend to you, but I will just say a couple things that are worth teaching the students. Number one, it was John Lewis who year after year submitted a bill in Congress to create a National Museum of African American History and Culture. That museum now exists as part of the Smithsonian. It is located in Washington, D.C. Can you just imagine the wondrous field trip that students from Robert Lewis High School to the National Museum where they can learn about John Lewis. Secondly, John Lewis was actually had two incidents in his life that really directly affect his role as an educator, other than the actions, the obvious actions that he did, like the march in Selma, where he nearly was beaten to death, like the Freedom Riders. When he was a teenager, high school age, he went to the Pike County Public Library and said he wanted to apply for a library card so he could check out a book. He was refused on the basis of his race. Finally, after John Lewis wrote a book, which I bought and had John Lewis sign, called Walking in the Wind, which was written by John Lewis, he was invited to that same library to give a book talk. And at the end of his book talk at the Pike County Public Library in 1998, John Lewis was finally given from that loss from the public library. It is really important, in my view, to use this as a teachable moment. That is to say, to educate the students, just like Kim was saying. Kim has learned some things about John Lewis. She's inspired by that name. Let's use this as an opportunity to educate students. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to say was to comment on the notion of don't name it after a person. Well, I'm just sorry. We have many high schools in Fairfax County named after people. They're all white men. It's time for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have speaker number 24, Lawrence Laws. Lawrence Laws. All right, I have speaker number 25, Amy Marlowe.
Hey, can you see me and hear me?
I can see you and hear you.
Okay, great. My name is Amy Marlowe, and I'm a member of the Fairfax NAACP and have spent most of my career working in Fairfax County nonprofit organizations, including Cornerstones, Facets, the Greater Reston Chamber of Commerce, and Leadership Fairfax. So as we're choosing a new name for Robert E. Lee High School, I believe that we really need to listen to and center the experiences of the Black community, which has been the most deeply and personally impacted by this issue. And we need to do this even if our own experience and the experience of our own children at the very same high school is not the same. And just because we, as white people, have not experienced racism in this school doesn't mean it wasn't present and isn't still present now. So I support the NAACP's position to rename the school after Representative John Lewis. I'm hearing this opinion a lot now, and I read it, that we should no longer name schools after people because it could be, quote, too controversial. And to me, this sounds like a new set of rules saying that if we need to name schools after Black people, then won't name them after anybody. So why do those of us who have always had the power of naming without this kind of controversy now seek to hold power in this process and deny that opportunity? And I want to speak to the name legacy. It's problematic because it gives the impression of perpetuating racism in a coded manner. So legacy, by definition, is an approving nod to the past. And when the past of this school invokes the very issue that we're trying to move forward from, then we need to take a clear step in another direction. It fails to rebuke the legacy of Robert E. Lee. And I really think we need to step outside of this question of branding and logos and look at the big picture of why are we doing this? Why are we changing this name? It's not to keep a logo, it's to stand up for racial justice. So we benefit, all of us benefit from making these changes, whoever you are, and however uncomfortable they are, to break down racism. So just as naming the school after a Confederate general communicated to the students that we can memorialize racism, so too can naming it after Representative Lewis communicate that we value equity and justice. It communicates that Black names are just as worthy as being used as white names. And I really think it models to the students that we as people, as adults, as schools, as communities can make mistakes, acknowledge that mistakes have been made, and do the best we can to change the community for the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 26, Maura Keeney.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Great.
I can.
Thank you. My name is, good afternoon, members of the board and Superintendent Braybrand. My name is Maura Keeney, and I'm a school-based technologies specialist with FCPS and the parent of an FCPS student, and I speak in my personal capacity. I also want to throw in a proud moment that the former excellent speaker, Amy Marlowe, is a student of mine from 20 years ago, and I'm sort of fighting back tears right now at the amazingness of her persuasive essay, as I taught her that when she was a 7th grader. Anyway, thank you for taking the time to tackle this important issue, and thank you for the work you're doing right now to choose names for our school that embody people, that honor people who embody the values that we promote and who will inspire our students to make our community and world a better place. Renaming this school is a tangible anti-racist action, and I'm proud of FCPS for undertaking this change. My son is a rising 2nd grader, and he loves history. And one of my proudest moments as a mother was when we were driving to school on Lee Chapel Road one morning when he was in kindergarten. And he said from the back seat, "Mama, I don't like that this is called Lee Chapel Road. I think it should be called Grant Chapel Road." I was so proud when he made that connection, but I assured him that I was pretty sure that the Lee family had a long history in Fairfax, and this road probably wasn't named after Robert E. Lee. It might have been named after some of the older Lees that have been around in Fairfax for a long time. But when I looked it up, I was actually wrong. It was named after Robert E. Lee in 1871, Lee Chapel was. And it just goes to show that the little children shall lead us, and how little so many of us who are Fairfax natives are really aware of the white supremacist legacy around us in all kinds of things. I originally signed up to speak tonight to urge the board to consider names of courageous Virginians whose legacies are not as well known, but who can be considered as role models for our students. One of my particular favorites is Elizabeth Van Lew, a native of Richmond who is an abolitionist, a suffragist, and a supporter of the Union during the Civil War, who spent her personal fortune and risked her life running a ring of successful suppliers of intelligence that led to Union victories in the Civil War. She was honored by the CIA and the National Security Agency, but is sadly overlooked as a Virginia hero due to the lasting lost cause legacy that still considers her a traitor to Virginia rather than the hero that she was. I also would have loved for Fairfax to consider Edwin Henderson. He is someone who surely we should have a building named after in our county. Mr. Henderson was an educator from Falls Church, a pioneer in the sport of basketball, and arguably the most prominent civil rights activist in Fairfax County during the 20th century. He organized the first rural chapter of the NAACP in Falls Church, and he later led the Virginia NAACP through the dangerous and contentious years of desegregation and massive resistance. I'm very proud that some of our 4th graders at Laurel Ridge named him. Oh no, I have one more paragraph. I wanted to say 2 weeks ago,
I would send it to us. All right.
I wanted to say it should be John Robert Lewis High School. That was my concluding paragraph. Thank you.
All right, we are now on speaker number 27, Dawn Hoptonstall.
It's Haptonstall.
Haptonstall, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to address you today. My name is Dawn Haptonstall. I am the parent of a student in Fairfax County Public Schools, and I would like you to know my perspective on the plan to rename Lee High School. When my student attended 1st through 6th grades in Fairfax County Public Schools, he was so very proud to be an Armstrong Eagle. From a young age, he loved everything to do with space, so his entrance into elementary education was transformed into an exciting adventure. Imagine attending a school named for one of his heroes, Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. Everything about the school was space-themed, from the names of the pods to the cafeteria walls. The name Armstrong could be seen everywhere, heard everywhere, felt everywhere. The school's name is ever present in the strong, positive memories our family holds dear, in the spiritware and the yearbooks and the photographs and the videos and the stories we tell and the moments we share on social media. I think all Fairfax County public students deserve an opportunity to experience that kind of immense joy and pride in their school, especially in their high school, the environment in which our students learn so much about themselves and about the world around them, when our students are eager for the perceived freedom of adulthood, but still benefit greatly from the guidance of others whose lived experience holds much wisdom. Memories from those years in high school, the classes, clubs, sports, activities, events, friendships, are irrevocably tied to the name of the school. Students deserve a school name they can be proud of. Families and teachers and staff and administrators and community members deserve a school name they can unapologetically and unequivocally support and sponsor and rally behind and get involved in. You have in front of you a golden opportunity to rename a high school after a person in whom everyone can take pride, John Lewis. John Lewis was a dedicated American, a Black man, a person of integrity who personally experienced the unfairness firsthand and chose to do something about it. John Lewis was a champion of protecting human rights and securing civil liberties, all with a focus on nonviolence. John Lewis inspired and encouraged community action and voter registration and education. John Lewis fought against injustice and rallied others to become involved in the struggle for equality. John Lewis was a courageous leader who held himself to high ethical standards and moral principles. John Lewis had the quality of character that makes him a respected, admired, and heroic figure for all of us. Imagine the sense of pride our students will have knowing that their school honors such an individual as John Lewis. Imagine the sense of pride that families and teachers and administrators and community members will have in recognizing and honoring his ideals and actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to speaker number 28, I'm looking at my list here. I can see who's still here. I'm going to try one more time. Liz McGann. Liz, do you think you'll be able, is your internet working, your speaker working? No. All right. If you will please, I know, I see your lips moving. I can't hear you. If you'll please send us your comments, and we will try one more time tonight before to see if you can. We have up to speaker number 28, John Oliva.
Hi, Tammy.
Hello, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. Hey, so not sure how many people speaking today actually went to Lee. I know there's been some students on here and a few other people. I've seen some teachers on before, but I suspect a lot of people are just activists. I know I'm outnumbered here and I'll be bullied, but I just want you to know that I represent a large majority of alumni who are actually, a little bit intimidated to come on here. But, people who are really hurt badly with this decision. We were actually proud to go to Robert E. Lee. And realizing that, that's not happening. You made your vote and you made your choice. And listening to being in the public community meeting last week and now the public hearing and listening, it would be far-fetched to think that you'll just drop it back to Lee and drop the RE, which, a vast majority of people would like to see happen. That being said, legacy doesn't mean what's being portrayed here. Legacy means, it's really unfair because nobody's mentioned the legacy of the actual students and educators that went to school there. Has nothing to do with the name of the school or Robert E. Lee or the Confederacy or anything. Legacy means the 1980 and 81 AAA state basketball team that won state, or the 3 gold medals won by a 15-year-old, Melissa Below, while she was a student at Lee, an Olympic swimmer in the 1972 and 76 Olympics, and a Lee High School graduate. Legacy also means the legacy of outstanding educators like Jack Baumgartner, Jim England, and Bill Jackson. All three men dedicated their careers shaping young minds at Lee High School. And those are just a few examples of why current and future students should be proud of being part of a legacy, and they can continue it with their own excellence. I mean, Melissa alone warrants legacy. Last week at the community meeting, and today also I heard in the discussion group, was a social studies teacher from Lee High School. She had a concern about the name legacy. She said, what does that mean? And was wondering if a name like legacy is giving a nod to the Confederacy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and how anybody can arrive at that conclusion was mind-boggling. Legacy has absolutely nothing to do with the Confederacy. Legacy is the legacy of the school itself and its people. I believe this person fabricated that notion based on her own feelings that she liked the school named after civil rights figures such as Mildred Loving. A nod to the Confederacy is no one's intention, and I believe it's irresponsible to fabricate this idea. I tell you the story because it's likely you've heard the same notion. Obviously, you heard it today. After the social studies teacher spoke, another teacher at Lee came on and supported the name legacy, which was encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 29 is Liz Murphy.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Liz.
All right, I'm coming via a hotspot because we have lost power. So hopefully my phone hotspot is going to hang in there for us. Anyway, good evening, everyone on the school board who's been able to join us tonight. And I noticed that Dr. Brabrand was with us as well. My name is Liz Murphy, parent of 3 recent graduates of the FCPS High School located at 6540 Franconia Road, Springfield, Virginia. My family and I have lived 1 block from this high school for almost 25 years. As you know, FCPS includes 28 high schools, including 6 academies. Annandale, Centerville, Chantilly, Fairfax, Falls Church, Herndon, Langley, McLean, Mount Vernon, Oakton, South County, South Lakes, West Potomac, West Springfield. These 14 high schools and 4 of the 6 academies all have names that represent the geographic area they are located in and comply with School Board Regulation 8170.8, which sets procedures for naming and renaming school facilities. Today, I am asking the school board to rename the high school located at 6540 Franconia Road, Springfield. Please add Springfield High School to this list of 18 high schools and academies that are branded by the geographic area they represent. This high school is located a short walking distance from the Springfield Town Center. This high school has a Springfield, Virginia zip code, 22150. This high school is located less than 4 miles from the Franconia Springfield Parkway. The opening sentence of this high school's 2020 FCPS profile page states, and I quote, "This high school opened its doors to serve the Springfield community in 1958, end quote. This high school's official April 26, 1959 dedication ceremony identified it as, quote unquote, Springfield's first high school, end quote. This high school's first class 57 years ago adopted the name Lancers and emblazoned it on their yearbooks, sport teams, and band uniforms. Today, in 2020, a large banner as you enter the school parking lot announces Home of the Lancers. The Lancers branding is not in jeopardy of going away, regardless of what name is chosen, because the regulation deals only with the renaming of the school. In 2020, this high school should be called Springfield High School, home of many proud Lancer students and their parents. I ask the school board to choose Springfield High School as our name. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy. Speaker number 30 is Todd Smith. Todd Smith. All right. Speaker number 31, Rebel Fossey.
Hey, how's it going? Hope y'all can hear me. My name is Rebel. Graduated from Lee High School about 10 years ago. Thankful that we're taking this opportunity to rename the school. Didn't think that this is something that would happen at the time, so I'm glad to see it in action. Personally, when I saw the list of names that we're changing it to, I was on the side that didn't agree with legacy specifically. I figured it would be a shame to rename the high school to something that could be interpreted as a clever way to honor the Confederacy, even though that may not be the intention. That is how it could be interpreted. And I feel like the impact of the name change is more important than the intention alone. Of the initially suggested names, I thought that Loving was a great option because she was a Virginian and has a unique part in Virginia history. I also agree with people going for John Lewis, as he's a very accomplished person in civil rights, but I'll leave it up to the other people who have discussed him and know more about him to push for his name. I know that there might be limitations, however, being practical, there might be limitations to changing it to a specific individual. Whether or not I like it, it might be limitations, and I understand that. So if it truly is an issue to rename the school to a specific person, I didn't know if this was suggested before, but one thing, I was kind of looking for names that are unique to the area, and I've pulled up on Accotink, from Lake Accotink, what I remember it's nearby in Springfield. Accotink specifically has specific ties to this area as opposed to a single person, like some people have argued against. Accotink is an Algonquin name that honors the Native Americans that were settled here originally. It has more depth than Springfield without being interpreted in the wrong way. Nothing personally wrong with Springfield, but I just know that there are tens of Springfields in the United States, so it's not as unique as a name that's specific to this area. And I don't need to pitch all the information about Accotink. If you all Google Accotink and enter the numbers 042417, it'll pull up a page that talks about the uniqueness of Accotink to this area. So you can check that out if you would like. I heard the suggestion for Laurel Grove. I didn't know about that before, but I thought that was a great suggestion as well, since it's not tied to a specific person, but has a part of the local area that we can be proud about. So that would be a great suggestion for a name as well. But mainly just came here to speak against the changing to Legacy or Central Springfield. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Speaker number 32 is Nathaniel Alazar.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, thank you, Ms. Koufax and the rest of the school board for allowing us this opportunity to speak. I know it can be sort of tedious with all these speeches, but thank you very much. John Lewis, leader, activist, hero. While having most recently occupied the halls of Congress as its very conscience, Lewis had been on the front lines of the struggle for civil rights long before his illustrious 33-year career in public service. Lewis's journey to becoming the icon of the civil rights movement when he was just 15. Inspired by leaders of the era, Lewis led acts of civil disobedience such as sit-ins and freedom rides to confront deep-seated racism and discrimination. Lewis's staunch advocacy for civil rights only continued into his 20s, having most notably delivered a forceful speech during the 1963 March on Washington and led the Selma Voting Rights March alongside his inspiration, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. While Lewis was often beaten and harassed during these defiant acts, even almost losing his life on Bloody Sunday, he courageously continued to fight for what he believed in hopes of one day achieving a more equal and just America. Lewis's fight, spanning nearly 70 years, only continued until his tragic death this past weekend. Despite this, Lewis's legacy of fighting for what's right, even in the face of tremendous opposition, is what has and will continue to serve as an inspiration for all, particularly young people who desire to follow in his footsteps. Lewis's standing as a civil rights icon and national hero makes him a tremendous choice for the new name of our beloved high school. With this renaming, not only would we put an end to our embrace of Robert E. Lee, a man who championed slavery so much so that he laid his life down for it as leader of the Confederacy, but we'd also be somewhat reversing the wrongs of the last 60 years by choosing a non-generic name that commemorates a leader who embodied everything Lee fought against: equality, justice, and inclusion. Our school name would no longer be a source of discomfort and embarrassment for so many, particularly our students of color, and would instead be a source of pride and inspiration for all. And something that not many people know, a school-wide curriculum developed around Lewis's book March only a couple years back, I think it was during my sophomore year, only reveals that the connection with the congressman extends far beyond this period, making the renaming even more appropriate. Even those who argue money or tradition as significant issues with school renamings would be glad to know that the L initial would still dawn our school merchandise. Thus, while Mildred Loving, Cesar Chavez, and others may be good options for our name, the proposition of honoring a civil rights icon who already has roots at our school and has served as an inspiration for so many young people, particularly, makes the choice of naming our high school after John Robert Lewis an easy one, the only one. My name is Nathan Alazar, class of 2018 graduate, along with 2 other people on this call. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And I am going to go to speaker number 33, Octavia Young.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello? Oh, okay, wonderful. Hi, good evening. My name is Octavia Young. I'm a former FCPS student and a member of the NAACP. I come before you this evening to put forth the name of Presidential Medal of Freedom winner, civil rights activist, and respected statesman John Robert Lewis. As we are discussing renaming Robert E. Lee High School, we must remember that we are not doing so in a bubble. Like those who came before us, we stand at the precipice of great change, as a community and as a county. We have been given the chance to address the mistakes of our past and reclaim our identity moving forward. If we as a community believe that the name of the Confederate general does not represent our values, and if our schools are to be institutions that value diversity and are committed to the equitable treatment of all students, then the new name should reflect that clearly and unequivocally. In the past, I have heard the names Legacy and Justice mentioned by many of my fellow residents, and while I understand why some may be quick to gravitate towards those names, it is important to note that legacy and justice are subjective nouns, that in the abstract only represent what the speaker or the hearer decides they do. When we say legacy, what legacy are we speaking of? The legacy of Robert E. Lee, or the legacy of the state that shut down its public education system in a response to Braun v. Board? And when we say justice, what do we mean? For some in the Commonwealth, particularly in Fairfax County, justice was leaving a body to dangle from a tall, sturdy tree like strange fruit because of perceived transgressions. Tomorrow, the school board will make a decision that does not merely affect students of Lee High School or those who live close to it. The school board, in renaming this high school, is making a statement about what Fairfax County represents and the values we embody. This is not the time to make decisions based on what will be most cost-effective, what would allow the school to keep its alliterative assonance as it relates to its mascot, or what will cause the least amount of controversy. This is a time to stand firm in what we say our ideals are as a county, and I can think of no better name to represent these ideals than John Robert Lewis. Additionally, a speaker before me mentioned high schools being named after the regions they exist in. While this is true, I would like to draw attention to the fact that Fairfax County also has Thomas Edison High School, George C. Marshall High School, Thomas Jefferson, and W.T. Woodson High Schools, which are all named after individuals. So naming a school after an individual is not uncommon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I am going to go back. I'm hearing that speaker number 21 is going to try one more time. Her phone appears to be connected now. And speaker 21, Liz McGann.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, do you know what? I can hear you, Liz. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, so just keep going.
No. Hear me now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No. You can? Oh,
yes.
My gosh. Well, my name is Liz McGann. I'm the PTSA president at this high school. I have had 5 children go through the school, with my youngest being a rising senior. I've spent the last 20 years as either a PTA president or on the board at all levels of the pyramid, Garfield, Key, and Lee. So I know the pyramid. We've been here a long time. I've been in the last week speaking to parents, trying to speak to students, and the ones that have spoken to me overwhelmingly have expressed not wanting to name the school after a person. That is kind of what got us into this problem in the first place. The school was named after a person to make a political statement. And we don't do that again, and we don't want our kids, frankly, used as pawns for outside organizations, political aspirations, or anything like that. So we all have been talking about it, and our students and our families come from countries all over this world, but the one thing that we all have in common is that we are from Springfield. We need something to pull us together, to unite us, and that would be Springfield. We're not from Franconia. I like Liz Murphy's quote of what when the school was dedicated. We are serving the children and the families of Springfield, Virginia. So I would vote for Springfield High School, Springfield Lancers, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Going to speaker number 34, Kristen Cabral.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good day to the Fairfax County School Board. I'm Kristen Cabral, the Drainsville District. I speak in support of renaming Lee High School to John Lewis High School. An African-American civil rights leader who believed in peaceful protest replacing the top Confederate military general is poetic justice. Moreover, Congressman John Lewis's activism started when he was a student, which shows the students of today and tomorrow that students have voices, students have power, and students can make change. If for some reason you are not apt to name a John Lewis High School to replace Lee High School, I hope you consider naming it after a woman of color. Here are some suggestions for today and for the future especially. Fannie Lou Hamer, Barbara Rose Johns, Harriet Tubman, Dolores Herta, Joy Harjo, Sojourner Truth, Polly Murray, Patsy Mink, Katherine Johnson, Kalpana Chola, Shirley Chisholm, Mildred Loving, Sonia Sotomayor, Aijen Poo, Amy Tan, Isabel Elante, Alicia Garza, Toni Morrison, and Rita Moreno. Two additional factors to this list. Many are not from Fairfax County or Virginia, and that's okay because many of us here are not originally from Fairfax County or Virginia. Our county is a global one with people moving here from all over the world, and our globalism should be reflected in our school names. And two, please also look to women of color who have achieved outside of politics and government. Please look to women who have achieved in science and the arts. This too beholds the cosmopolitan nature and the well-rounded aims of our present day Fairfax County. Thank you for your consideration of my comments. Let's have a John Lewis High School in our FCPS system. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker number 35, Mark Heinitz.
Thank you. Hello. I'm the father of two young adult daughters and a godson who are recent graduates of formerly Lee High School. Our family has lived a block away from the high school for almost 25 years. I'm advocating the new name be Springfield High School, the Springfield Lancers. Our community high school lies in the heart of Springfield, a welcoming place to live, work, and shop. In addition to being a hub for regional transportation, Springfield is undergoing rapid development. The new TSA headquarters is almost completed. Kaiser is building a new medical facility. Inova recently announced they will be building a new hospital. We remain a finalist for the new FBI headquarters. All this in addition to the ongoing redevelopment plans of Springfield Town Center. More people are recognizing Springfield as an attractive destination. Fairfax County recognizes the importance of Springfield to the county. After many years and much effort, the Springfield branding project is underway, in which new gateway entrance signs are being installed to welcome visitors and shoppers into the Springfield commercial area. The name of our community high school is an important part of this intentional rebranding effort that is already occurring. Springfield High School will be a welcoming name to all those who come to our community to live or visit. For many years, Fairfax County Public Schools were named primarily for geographic areas and locations in the community. The heart of our community high school is Springfield. My vote for a new name is Springfield High School. The Springfield High School answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heinitz. Next is speaker number 36, Sierra Toogood. All right. Speaker number 37, Lindsay Cortez.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay Cordes. I live in Fairfax, and I really agree with the speakers who point out that going from Robert E. Lee to legacy is a straight line from the Confederacy to the new name. If there's any chance this could be misconstrued as honoring the legacy of the Confederacy, then we can't do it. If we're changing the name, let's choose something that stands in opposition to the former name. So John Lewis was a civil rights icon. We should name the school after him. Let's make a real commitment to being anti-racist. Thanks.
Thank you. Speaker number 38, doesn't look like they're there. Speaker number 39, Caleb Getachew.
Yes, can you hear me, Ms. Koufax?
Yes, I can.
All right. I just want to say, ever since the day that Jeb Stewart had changed their name to their name high school, I've been longing for this day for quite a while. And as a student of FCPS and Lee High School, there have been a number of times where people have asked me where I'm from or what high school I went to which I would hesitantly reply with Lee High School. Coming from a rather progressive and exceptional county, it pains me to tell you that I went to a school named after one of the Confederate generals who fought for their Confederate ideals, regardless of his military prowess. People like Lee are men of history, and no more than men of history. Their names should only be limited to history classrooms and historical contexts, not be glorified as school names. A name like Robert E. Lee does not represent the students of the school, nor the county that represents us. There should not be a single ethical justification as to why the name should not be changed. During my sophomore year, as Nathaniel had mentioned, in 2016, we were all assigned to read March, Book 1, which detailed the life and fight of former Representative John Lewis. Now, John Lewis, along with many other greats like the Big Six, was a man who was quite literally dedicated his whole entire life to the civil rights movement. From birth till death, he was fighting the same fight, which we still are fighting till this day, and we will continue to keep on fighting for. John Lewis's fight had led him to experience a segregated school system at a very young age, a powerful march to Selma and Washington, multiple harassments from the government officials by being arrested over 40 times, and even becoming a representative in the House of Representatives. So let us acknowledge the possibility that this problem of racism may not be solved within our lifetimes, or even worse, our children's lifetimes. We must not be complacent but rather proactive about the change. And just like Chris Knisley had mentioned before, unless we're actively condemning racists and their ideals, we're not doing our part. Change starts at the lower levels of ourselves, then our community, and then our county. We can be confident that by changing the name to John Robert Lewis High School, this will be a definite step in the right direction. We owe it to the trailblazers of history to continue their fight for equality in any way that we can. So I urge you all to change the name to John Robert Lewis High School. And I want to make sure everyone's listening when I say this quote. And this is a quote from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And he says, in the end, we will not remember the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Thank you for your time, Ms. Koufax.
Thank you. Speaker number 40 is Larissa Kotz. Speaker number 41, S.T. Baltz. Speaker number 42, Diane Dresner.
Yes, I'm here.
First, I'd like to say thank you to the school board for this chance to speak. I have been a Fairfax County resident since 1982. I have children that have gone through the school system, grandchildren that have gone through or are still in the school system. I've been a very active parent and volunteer. I think the time is now in which we all need to be actively anti-racist. We all need to speak up, and we need to show the younger generations how to do better than we did, that change is possible, that change is valued, that we need to call out and change what is racist. Just because we're used to things being a certain way, and there is a thing called wallpaper, that we're used to this wallpaper around us. Now that our eyes are open, we need to change it. And I definitely would love to have the school named after John Robert Lewis. Remember, we need to be proactive and we need to make amends for racism. Our children and grandchildren are watching us, and we need to make this statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Speaker number 43, Jennifer Hobbs.
Hi, how are you all? I too am a Fairfax County resident. I'm 51 years old, and I went through all the schools here in Fairfax County, and I have a son who's now a senior at a Fairfax County public school. And I am here to say that I definitely think we need to have the name changed to John Robert Lewis. And with everyone else, I mean, I'm not going to add on with everybody, but I will say all these people have made wonderful speeches about him. He was a wonderful human being. And then I heard some people saying how, well, don't really want to have named after people because, you know, that could get overturned. But you can never go wrong when you are putting a name after someone who was on the correct side of history. So I am all for the great new name change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speaker number 44, Allison Eddy. Speaker number 45, Manthana Khan. I'm sure I didn't say your name right.
Hello.
Say it again. Yes.
I'm sorry, the video is not coming on because we don't have any power at home.
Oh, no worries. We can hear you just fine. So you can please start. Just state your name again.
Muntaha Khan.
All right. Thank you. Please go ahead, Ms. Khan.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. I am a former student of Lee High School, and I am very thankful to have a say in changing the name of the institution I learned at. The name change has been a pressing matter for students for many years, and I am glad to be a witness to it. I have heard a few suggestions to what the name of this high school should become, and I believe the individual that highlights the importance of our history more than anyone is Representative John Lewis, who recently passed. He was a key individual of the civil rights movement, organizing historical marches, sit-ins, boycotts, and leading others to fight against injustice that was and is still prevalent. We cannot have a basic name for a high school when it was named after a Civil War general who fought to keep slavery and opposed racial equality for African Americans after his surrender. We need someone that will empower the students and staff. This name will represent who they are and what school they come from. Back in high school, many of my classmates and I were regularly asked if we were comfortable with who Robert E. Lee was and what he represented. Of course we weren't. It's one thing to learn about historical figures, but another to name a place of learning that prides itself on being inclusive and diverse after a person who never thought those values were important. We need a name that will be representative of the people in this community and what we stand for. That is why John Lewis is perfect for the name change. His mission and life's work encompasses the reality we live and what we need to do to make it better. His ideals and values resonate with the people and are true to what we are fighting for and what others fought for throughout history. He practiced and preached nonviolence as a way to properly fight the oppressors even when they attacked him for standing up for what was right. He is an icon of what this country should represent, a man of equality, a representative of civil rights, an advocate for voting rights. But most important of all, he was a person that looked out and fought for others. He is someone that should be celebrated and honored for creating such a difference in the American system of oppression. John Lewis is the person that should be hailed as a hero that has inspired and connected to the lives of thousands. He is a relevant and present part of our history, and that needs to be seen in this community. To change the name of Lee High School, the board needs to understand the weight the name carries, if it is seen in a positive or negative light, and most importantly, the impact it is going to have on the people and community it represents. That is why John Lewis's name means a great deal. It not only shows representation, it is an act of change. It stands for progress, and I hope the board sees that as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, I have Chelsea Scott, speaker number 46. And speaker number 47, David Hardison.
Okay. Can you hear me, Ms. Kovacs?
I can, thank you.
All right. Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Brabrand. I'm a longtime Fairfax County resident. I attended Justice High School, and my 3 children also went through FCPS. I was involved in the effort to rename Jeb Stuart High School, and I welcome your wise decision to rename Robert E. Lee High School. This evening, I urge you to rename Lee High School John Robert Lewis High School. By way of background, as unified as we supporters of changing Stuart's name had been, the selection of a new name for Stuart was challenging. Advocates of renaming the school after either Thurgood Marshall or Barbara Rose Johns both held very strong views. In response to that impasse, some of us proposed to rename Stuart after Colonel Louis G. Mendez, a local World War II hero and educator, only to see the school board fall 1 vote short of approving what would have been the first and only school in FCPS named after a Hispanic American. While justice was also a fine choice, it left FCPS with 7 high schools named after white men, 7 high schools named after towns or places named after white men, and 4 high schools named after estates once owned by white men. On the other hand, there is not a single high school in FCPS named directly or indirectly after a person of color. But you can change that this week. With John Lewis's recent passing, there has been an outpouring of support for renaming Lee after him. You have a great opportunity to honor his lifelong dedication to civil rights at a critical point in time. John Lewis's life offers FCPS teachers not only a teachable moment, but a wider portal to much of our nation's history over the past 60 years. It would be fantastic if the board could quickly, even unanimously, honor Congressman Lewis this week. He is an inspiring figure and fully deserving of this honor. And quite honestly, the members of the school board need a break. I hope you don't spend hours upon hours upon hours debating the pros and cons of safe names like Springfield or ambiguous names like Legacy, when one name truly stands out at this moment, unlike at the time of the Stuart renaming. Especially with the COVID crisis, you still have plenty of other unfinished business to demand your attention. In closing, please come together as a board, rename Lee after John Robert Lewis, and inspire the next generation to make some good trouble. Thank you again for your service to our community.
Thank you. Speaker number 48, Jamie Kurland.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you.
Great. My name is Jamie Kurland, and I'm a resident of Fairfax County and a volunteer and member of the Fairfax County NAACP. I moved to the area about 2 years ago and was shocked when I saw Lee Jackson Highway and Robert E. Lee High School in our neighborhood. Honoring Confederate traitors who committed treason based on blatant racism by fighting to defend slavery is abhorrent. I am glad that this district is finally taking the issue seriously and has decided to change the name of Lee High School. As a historian and an educator, I believe that the stories and reasons behind the names of our institutions and statues we erect matter. To name the school Legacy, one must ask whose legacy? Lee High School was named in 1958 as Fairfax County opposed racial integration. According to Tom Jelton in his 2015 book, A Nation of Nations, The authorities in Fairfax County did not merely refuse to comply with the Supreme Court's order. They defiantly named the next two high schools after Confederate Army generals, Jeb Stuart and Robert E. Lee. This is the unfortunate legacy of Lee High School. Many have expressed concerns about naming the high school after a person. Yet I believe that the most important way we can show our students that their school is dedicated to taking measured steps to show that it is anti-racist and an anti-racist space is to change its name to one that represents the opposite of the racist general. I believe that Lee should be renamed to honor the late civil rights leader, John Lewis, who began his own activism in high school. I will end with a quote by Lewis himself, who said, "When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to do something." Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker tonight, Bridget Walsh. And I do not see Bridget Walsh as called in. I have checked our list now, and we have no one else has called in who I have missed. So we have completed our public hearing tonight. I thank you all for virtually attending and for sharing your comments and concerns. Our board will take action on the new name for Robert E. Lee High School tomorrow at our July 23rd meeting. And I thank you all again for your time, for coming out tonight, and this hearing is adjourned.